I was doing this. So
He
hopefully
walks
he doesn't
in.
like, barge in through the door and yeah. Anyways, all right. So now we're recording. So, all right, Kayla, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Morgan. I'm super excited to talk to you here.
Yeah, how you making out today?
Everything's good. I'm actually on break for 4 days, which is
Nice.
fun and nice to have. And then we're back playing Ottawa this weekend, so that'll be exciting.
Nice, good stuff. Yeah, so you kind of mentioned it there. I want to dig in a little bit to your previous hockey career in a bit, but right now, exciting. You're playing in the PWHL, the inaugural season of the PWHL. It's been very exciting. I've tuned into as many games as I can. Been really impressed with the product you guys are putting on the ice. So, just tell us a little bit about kind of what it means to you to be playing in the PWHL and kind of how that's progressed and what this season has meant to you and all the hard work that it's taken to get to that point.
For sure. Well, I appreciate you tuning in. That's awesome, and I love to hear that. But I think what it means to me, it's really a dream come true for us female athletes, just because it's something that we've been waiting for a long time, truly. And I think now that it's here, and everyone is loving the product. It's awesome, right, to see. And also, I think we're making history itself with the first inaugural game for Toronto. We won 4-0, which was awesome. But to see the fans there was incredible. The atmosphere was just great, and it was sold out too in Toronto, which is awesome to hear. But I think really the next generation to be able to inspire the young girls to have now a dream to be a professional hockey career is just something special. So to be a mentor to these girls means everything to me. And I think, yeah, it's something that we've been waiting for a really, really long time. And now to be playing professional hockey as a career and to have a living salary, it's something we've never had before. So to say that, it's truly remarkable.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's kind of you kind of touched on it there that I think it's really important for the longest time. It was hard. I mean, I don't want to touch on you growing up and not really having not necessarily the role models, but not having this league or something like this to look forward to. But it's really cool to be in that mentor position. How are you handling kind of that mentor position? Do you feel more pressure to be kind of a mentor now that you guys are kind of the face of women's hockey and you have so many young girls that can aspire to be what you guys are doing?
For sure. I think we love it. Like we see so many signs. The young girls are like bringing signs to the game, and actually have a bracelet. One of a young girl came into our locker room and made each of our players a bracelet, which was awesome to see. So I think just the engagement is great, but I think the pressure is a privilege, and I take a lot of pride in that. Just because I think we have kind of a role to play for these girls in the next generation. So I think that's truly special, and I hope one day they can dream to be a professional hockey player as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You mentioned there, I love that line, like pressure is a privilege. Where do you think that kind of like how do you put yourself in that mindset, I guess, of like, obviously there's a lot of pressure to live up to these standards and to, this is the first season and you really want to put out a good product. Like, where does that kind of pressure is a privilege mindset come from? And like, how are you manifesting that day in, day out to be able to go out on the ice?
Yeah, I think it comes from a lot of prep, a lot of
Right.
years of preparation. So I think, knowing that I'm prepared and being confident in that, I can just go out on the ice and have fun. Right. Obviously, the first game I was nervous, and I'm sure a lot of girls were, just because it was the first game and we're like, okay, we're here now. Reflecting back. But I think when you're prepared and you're accountable and you're disciplined, you're going to go out there and play your role as best as you can just for your teammates. Right. I take that with a grain of salt. Just being accountable for your actions and playing for my teammates. My support system, my coaches, and our community as well as New York. So
Nice. No, I love that. So it's taken you guys quite a long time to get to this state of having a professional women's hockey league, right? I know
yeah,
you guys last year were kind of it was up in the air. There was a lot of things in the works. Kind of you guys were playing tournaments and it was a little spotty here and there. And now it's consolidated. There's a league. There's 6 teams. I imagine with the product that you guys have put on the ice so far that it's going to continue to grow and you guys are going to continue to expand and you're going to see like a legitimate league here in a few years. So How do you think this inaugural season and just being able to actually put this product, put PWHL together, how does this impact not only women's hockey, but women's athletics in general? And kind of where do you see the PWHL and women's hockey progressing to over, say, the next 5 years?
Yeah, I like that. I like how you say that because it's going to continue to grow, right? Like you see just with our first game, a sellout crowd, and then records continue to be broken just for like the fan attendance. I think Minnesota had like 13,000 fans.
Yeah,
Montreal had about 8,000. So I think it's going to continue to grow. So we love to see that. And the games are fast and physical, and I think that's what the fans want to see. So they're coming to these games and getting that, and it's the best players in the world that they're seeing. The talent's there, and I think it's just going to continue to grow. Just female sports in general, like you see the women's NBA growing. They're doing awesome. Same with the women's soccer league as well. And I think we're just starting. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I can't wait to see what the future holds because it's only up from here. And I think I remember a stat here. The first game, it was like 2.9 million viewers in
right.
Canada to watch our first inaugural game. So like it's awesome to see that they're broadcasting and they're coming in with the numbers and records to be continue to be broken. So it's really nice to see that and hear that.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on there, and I think you're going to continue. You guys are going to continue to grow, like we're saying, and just like I think you and I spoke before we jumped on here, before we hit record, about just kind of, I think you've surprised a lot of people in that. Like, I mean, I've been kind of within the realm of women's hockey for a few years now. I know the product that can be put on the ice. I've seen it firsthand working with women's teams and women's athletes and stuff. But I think a lot of people who are maybe naysayers or doubters about like what this might be, it's not the NHL, da 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 da. You get all these people who are kind of like putting it down. I think you've surprised a lot of those people with the product that has been put on the ice. I know for me, we spoke about before that I really love like how they're just letting you play
Yeah.
with the contact and all that sort of thing, and it's really made it more exciting than I think a lot of people were anticipating. So I'm interested to get your perspective from a player's perspective on like some of the cool things that they're doing with not only letting you guys play in terms of like contact, because historically kind of contact has kind of been shunned away from the women's game a little bit for whatever reason that may be. But you guys are allowed with the contact. It's a little bit faster than I think anybody anticipated.
Yeah.
And then I think personally, there's rules that I think the NHL should adopt in the shorthanded rule. If you score a goal, your teammate comes out of the box, and then
Yeah.
the 3 points for a regulation win. I think those are great rules. Was that something that you guys advocated for as players? Was it something that the league just did? And I'm just interested to hear your thoughts on like how you think that changes the game a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think the physicality point, the aspect of it, the players actually asked for that, and I think that's
Nice.
a big call there, right? Like now we're seeing it. It's exciting. People love the aggression. Like it's making it more exciting and faster. I think so. That's a good thing there. And then obviously the jailbreak rule. So the 3 points in the jailbreak rule I think came from the league, and I think they just wanted to test it out and see how it was going to happen. And we tested this out in Utica, which was like a camp for all the
Okay.
teams. So yeah, I think it's cool. It rewards the team for like, if you're shorthanded and you go score, the other team shouldn't have a power play anymore. So it kind of
Right.
rewards the team and gets them motivated, I think. And then the 3 points for the win, I think is awesome. It kind of, separates you from the rest if, you're winning a lot of games and whatnot. So I think that's truly cool. And to try something else that's new is awesome. And yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, no, I love that. Like I said, I think those are rules that I think you guys should continue to have in the game. But I honestly think the NHL should adopt those rules because like the 3 points for the win is actually really interesting to me because I think in professional hockey now, especially like you see in the NHL, there's a lot of parity in the league now. Like a lot of teams are really good, and then so you have a lot of these teams that are stuck like middle of the pack that
Yeah,
can't really like move forward.
catch up.
They're kind of winning enough games to be like just on the bubble, but they don't make the playoffs, and then they're out of the lottery draft, and so you're kind of just seeing teams that are like staying stagnant in this like middle ground, so to
Hmm.
speak, I guess. And I think the 3 points for regulation wins just completely not eliminates that, but separates it a little bit. It rewards you for winning in regulation, right? Is
Yeah,
if you're taking games to OT and other teams are getting a point off you and you're only getting one more point for winning that game, there's not a whole lot of separation, and maybe you could argue that makes it a little bit more exciting down the stretch. But
Yeah.
I think it really is a cool rule that should continue to happen. And once you guys expand and have more teams, I think it's going to be a really cool way to differentiate yourself and really push to just like win in regulation, right? Want to finish the game in
Yeah.
60 minutes. I think that's a cool rule.
Yeah.
One thing I want to talk about in terms of the contact, you're a bit of a smaller player, and like I said before, historically, hitting has kind of been shunned out of the women's game. So if you grow up playing women's hockey, I know a lot of female athletes grow up playing sometimes on men's teams and stuff, which I want to talk about a little bit later. But do you think where if these girls are getting to the professional level, PWHL level, and they're kind of now just letting you kind of play, letting you hit, being a smaller player and just like not growing up with the hitting, do you see that as that maybe that could be dangerous of like, all of a sudden you get to 18, 19 years old and now all of a sudden you're not allowed to hit each other and you weren't really maybe properly prepared for
Mhm.
hitting. And I know they kind of do that with the minor hockey system, at least in Canada now. You're not allowed to hit until like, I think it's like Pee Wee or something now.
Yeah.
So these kids are like growing up, you learn to play the game. And of course, more skills coming into the game. They want to get the hitting and the fighting out a little bit at least. And so they're kind of pushing it off. In my eyes, I think that's a little bit dangerous to just be now kids are hitting puberty and now they're allowed to hit each other. Do you see the same thing with the women's game? And do you think that they should start to allow at least the contact that you're seeing in the PWHL? They should allow that at like younger ages?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I agree. I think they should, just because like you see it now a little bit. Some girls aren't ready for the hits, and as I mean as they shouldn't be, just because we haven't had any of that, right? So
Right.
now I think with a couple games in, people are more prepping for it. But I think coming into the league, I didn't know how physical it was going to be, and then yeah, like I said, after the first couple games, you figure it out, and I kind of use my speed to my advantage. So
Right.
I use that as a tool. But I think in college they should implement it a little bit, just because these are girls that are graduating, right? And they're going to come to the
Right.
league. And I think that would be a good idea so they can prep for that. But it also, I think also when you're younger as well, they should maybe allow more contact on the boards, I would say, just because that's where, like, you rub off on people, you kind of finish your hit a little bit. You're not obviously allowed to truly hit them, but like just to rub off and make that body contact a little bit, just so they can be prepped, so they're not getting
Right.
injured or anything. It's nothing to their surprise. But I was gonna touch on this. I actually played boys hockey when I was 12 or 13 years old, when we were allowed to hit. So my mom wasn't a fan, but my dad was like all for it. I think I
Yeah.
was 12 and 13, and it was Hub. It was the Hamilton Spitfires. I played contact hockey, and I was actually laying hits. Like we were trained how to hit in practice, but I was young, right? And then also trained how to take a hit, just like they would bring out pads and like hit us against the boards and stuff. And I just remember my guy teammates sticking up for me, which was kind of cool. But
Yeah.
that kind of, I would say, prepared me a little bit. And like I said, I use my speed as well. But I love the physicalness. But I think, yeah, it should definitely be implemented so girls are ready for this and they don't see it as a surprise, because injuries kill, right? So, yeah, I
For
agree.
sure. Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. Like I know because there's really an art to being able to take a hit, right? Like there's a way you should receive a hit to not just get absolutely crushed against the boards and end up injuring yourself, right? And I know
For
like
sure.
when I grew up playing hockey, the same thing you just said, like we would have like hitting clinics and stuff, right? And you'd have like people come in and show you how to hit, how to take a hit, and like how to defend yourself to take the hit and just like be okay after taking the hit. So that's
Hmm.
that's interesting. You did bring up playing boys hockey there growing up. Was that something that helped you prepare to play women's hockey, or do you think it would have been? I know maybe like you're a bit older, so growing up, there wasn't really maybe as established women's leagues or anything. So I think now you're starting to see more kind of female leagues and girls only teams and stuff. Do you think that's a not necessarily a good thing because I think it is a good thing for the game. But do you think playing boys hockey and having to learn, like you're a smaller player, you were probably smaller than most of the boys when you played. Do you think having to learn how to use your speed and how to protect yourself from those physical kind of bigger players helped you when you got to this level, or do you think more getting into female hockey earlier is probably the better route to go?
Yeah, that's a good question. And just thinking, I think there's pros and cons. I say this just because, so for the pros for guys hockey, when I played, I grew up playing. So right away, I was right into guys hockey. And then I think I transferred to girls hockey when I was 13. So that's kind of late, right? Like now
Right.
you see girls that are just playing girls hockey all the way up into college professional hockey, right? For me, there wasn't really any great girl like leagues around for girls. We didn't have great ice times, great ice rinks, anything like that. So that was definitely a barrier. And also when I was with the guys, I had to change in a separate room, right? So you kind of miss that connectiveness, the team culture, which I love. And you see it now with girls hockey. Like I love going to the rink and being with my team and connecting with them in that manner, right? Just the locker room banter and chatter.
Right.
But I think the way it helped me when I played guys hockey, I think, yeah, the physicalness and just the speed and the pace, and obviously getting ready for the hits and whatnot. But I think because I went to about age 13 and then I went to girls hockey, I was a little late in regards to getting scouted. I say this just because I played single A because I wasn't really looked at since I was playing guys hockey. I didn't really have any scouts or anything that I was able to make, a double A or junior A team right away. I was young at the time, but I was 13. So I went over to Ancaster Avalanche and then Stony Creek. So I played single A, and I really wanted to make double A, but I just didn't quite make it. They didn't really know who I was because I was playing boys hockey. And yeah, so I guess I was late because I ended up getting a scholarship in grade 12. So a lot of
Okay.
girls actually commit in grade 9 or 10, and there's nothing wrong with grade 12. It's just it is a little late because I wanted to know in grade 10 or 11. And I think the common pattern is people are committing in grade 9 and 10, but I would say there's no rush. But I think due to that late transfer to girls hockey, I was a little bit of a late bloomer, but I don't regret anything, nothing like that. But there's definitely pros and cons to that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
that's a great point. I want to dig into your like minor hockey kind of high school getting recruited stage of your
Yeah.
career a little bit. And I guess to kick it off, because you brought it up there a little bit with being a late bloomer and that sort of thing. There's so much skill in the game nowadays, and I've talked about this on the last 3 episodes. I've talked about how much skill there is in the game and
Mhm.
how you can stay ahead of the curve and that sort of thing. Again, I don't mean to keep berating that you're a smaller player, but being a smaller player, and just with so much skill in the game, and to I guess what advice would you have for kind of a younger girl who is looking to get recruited, or not? It doesn't even have to be a girl, a younger player who's looking to get recruited to play college, play pro, who's maybe not the most like skillful on the ice. Maybe they're not the biggest player on the ice. What do you think they can do, and maybe you can share a little bit about your story about what you did to kind of get noticed, to get scouted? How can they separate themselves from someone who's maybe more top tier in the skill department than they are?
Yeah, for sure. I'll first touch on like obviously what to do and then my story. But yeah, I think a huge thing to separate yourself from the skilled players and whatnot if you're not a skilled player is work ethic. I think work ethic and discipline beats talent long term, just for long term success. And that's what I did. I would say so. I wasn't the most skilled player. I remember making the double A Stony Creek team, and we had skill sessions from like 8:15 to 9:15, and I was actually on the side. My coach would like bring me to the side and everyone else would do the drill, but he actually had to pull me to the side to be like, no, stick to this one because you haven't like surpassed it. Like I wasn't doing it right. And that's because I didn't really go into skill clinics or anything like that. So I was a little bit behind in that manner, but I always wanted to work hard because I had goals to being always playing with the best players, which was like Division 1 hockey, and then like just yeah, college hockey and playing with the best. And then I didn't really foresee anything after that because there wasn't many, like pro leagues or anything like that. But for me, it was just about working hard and being disciplined. So obviously, my goal was to be obviously playing with the best. So I would go to the gym on my own in high school and work out. Whereas other girls weren't and they were just on the ice. So yeah, I think just obviously work ethic goes a long way, and discipline.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's a great point, and I think that is something really tangible that anyone listening to this can kind of grab onto. Where you said like, you were pulled out of practice for basically being a drill buster, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't like it didn't hurt your confidence. You were still like, I still want to play at the elite level. I still want to, and you just worked hard at it. And last week, I spoke to Ryan Van Asten, who has an illustrious career in the NHL. He's been around the elites of the elites in the game. And that was one of his big takeaways was at the end of the day, just working hard will get you to where you need to be, right? And you
Yep.
don't need to focus on anything special. You don't need to be the most skilled player. You just need to show that you're willing to be there to learn. You're willing to put yourself out there and you're willing to work hard every single day. And I know from a strength coach perspective, that's what means the most to me. Like the athletes that I enjoy coaching the most in the gym are the ones that show up every day. They treat this like a job, even though it's not their job. And I think that's one of whenever young players ask me like, what's it like training NHL pros? Because we all have pro groups in the summertime, and
Yeah.
pros will come through, and the one thing I say to them is like they're so good to train, not only because they're professional athletes, they get it, and they move well, and they're fun to train in the gym, but they also come in and they treat this like it's their job. And granted, it is their job,
Yeah.
but even before they got there, it's like this is the job. They come in, they give me an hour of dedicated work. They're not messing around. They're not on their phone. None of that stuff. And so I think that's really important to be able to tell like young girls that like young players even that's like if you can just work hard, you can make it to this next
Yeah.
level. So I really like that. I want to jump back to kind of your earlier days. So was there ever, if you can remember, I guess, was there ever like a defining moment where you knew you wanted to play hockey, where you wanted to play pro? Like you scored a goal in this tournament and you're like, this is it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Can you remember a moment that kind of set you on this path?
That's a good one. I don't think there was a moment, but like I will say, so I got into hockey because my dad would bring me to the rink at like the age of 5 because he was playing like men's league. And I think I get my passion and competitiveness from him. Like we butt heads, but we're literally best friends. So I wanted to be like him. So I got into hockey at the age of 5, was into guys hockey, played that and went to girls. But I think I'm more of like I want to say results driven person, even though sometimes you don't get the results. But I had goals, so once I reached my goals, I was like, okay, what's the next goal? Okay, I want to play with the best. How can I get there? So I kept going, and at about age, I would probably say 7 or 8. I knew I wanted to play like in the NHL. I was like, I want to play in the NHL, right? And
Right.
that's what we looked to because that's all that there was, right? But now with this league, the PWHL, I'm so happy I can say, girls now can be like, I want to play in the PWHL. We didn't have that. So obviously I was just like, I want to play pro hockey. So yeah, definitely goal oriented, but results driven too. So like I love winning, obviously. Who doesn't? But being competitiveness, having that competition and like wanting to win with your teammates is something special. And I really like strive to be the best player I can be. And my teammates push me to be the best player I can be, and I think that's something special, right? So I always just wanted to play with the best and be with the best. And I guess here I am. So yeah, it's definitely a full
Right.
circle moment.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. That's a great story. You kind of touched on it there with being like goal driven. How every time you reached like, quote unquote the mountaintop, there was another mountain that you needed to climb, right? And I'm very similar in that regard. I've like changed careers and like changed all
Yeah.
these things that I do because I kind of achieved the goal and then I'm like, well, now what? You know what I mean? I always need something to chase, which in one hand is a really good thing, but in another hand, it's like, will you ever be satisfied with what you're doing, kind of thing, right? So obviously chasing those goals all the way up to playing professional hockey is what got you to play professional hockey. Do you find it hard now that you're at quote unquote the pinnacle, you're playing professional hockey, your dream has come true? Do you find it hard that there's maybe no peak to chase, or what are those new peaks that you're chasing, and how are you staying motivated day in day out to like compete and be the best player that you can be?
Yeah, I think a big thing is definitely a support system in your teammates, like surrounding yourself with good people. So I think, I'm trying to make obviously myself proud, my teammates, my coaches, and obviously my support system too. So kind of doing them justice. But at the same time, yeah, like I said, I'm a very goal oriented person. So I think like goals for me is obviously being the best player I can be and contributing as best as I can on my team as a player, and obviously off the ice too as well, being a great teammate. That's what I strive for. But I think winning a championship is definitely in the goal of mine, like as a teammate. I
Right.
haven't really done anything like that in college and at the pro level, obviously, because it's the first year. But I think that would be something really cool. And then also just to touch on, even after my hockey career, whenever that ends, hopefully not too soon. But I think this league will definitely branch out to many things that you can network to. So it could be like broadcasting, like being a trainer, being a coach. So I think goals in that manner is definitely something important too, because it actually, like, I think it branched out jobs for a lot of people, opportunities, because we had to hire, staff, trainers, athletic trainers, media people, people for ticket sales. So I think for females also, it gives us, opportunities for another job after our hockey career. So that's even a goal. So I think it's like never ending. I think hockey has given me a lot, and I want to give back to the community because it has given me a lot and has helped me meet so many people and network with so many people. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to as well. So I guess all in all, to answer your question, I don't think it ends because I feel like there's always something else. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But you
Yeah.
you want to be like, I don't know if this is the same with you, but like when you reach your goal, I don't want to just go to the next. Like, yes, you do, but you kind of want to soak that in and also be proud in what you did, because yeah, you'll never be satisfied. So I think obviously celebrating when you reach a goal and then saying, okay, yeah, like what's next, right? But kind of
Right.
soaking it in at the same time.
No, I fucking love that answer. That's a great answer. Like, and that's something definitely can say that I struggle with a little bit is like just enjoy the moment. Like you work so hard to be here. Like
Yeah,
you don't have to think about that next mountaintop. Enjoy it. You've worked really hard to be here. Enjoy what you have accomplished, right? And I think, like you said, that is I think that's a really important answer that I don't want to just breeze over in that you said in there about like how it's created other jobs. Like I know personally within the network that I'm in with strength coaches and stuff, there's strength coaches that have left their job of like 10 years to go be PWHL, like work with the teams in the
yeah,
PWHL, sorry.
you're
And
good.
like so I think like just the jobs it's created has been great, but I think the one thing that you said there that I think is a huge takeaway for younger players is like not identifying yourself just as a hockey player, right? I think a
That's
lot
huge.
of
Yeah,
players like struggle when they retire. You see these people that have, 10, 12-year careers in the NHL and then they retire and they kind of like lose their identity because they don't like know who they are. They've been a
oh for
hockey player
sure.
for so long. So like having those goals after your hockey career is I think is really important and definitely I think something that young players should definitely take from what you just said there. So that's an awesome answer. I love that.
I was
Uh,
gonna say, I love that you said that, because like that's what I say. Like I try to tell people that, because I feel like I'm so much more like you as well, right? You're not just a trainer. I'm not just a hockey player. I'm a sister to someone. I'm a daughter. I'm a friend. Like so much more. And I think that's like my identity. And then I do hockey for fun because it's awesome and it's my job now. And I don't
yeah.
even see it as a job. But obviously, you want to like perform well because it is your job. But I just have so much passion and love for the game that I don't see it as that, right? So
Yeah.
it's
No.
something, it's just a dream right now, which is great. I'm trying to be present, but yeah.
No, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you, and it's really like I know people are just going to be listening to this. Maybe they'll watch it on YouTube or something, but to actually just like see your emotion and like you're clearly passionate about this game, and it's cool to like get to talk to you to see just what this league has been able to do. Like your dream has literally come true, and that's pretty cool that you guys were able to accomplish that, and I'm so pumped that it gets to progress forward.
Thanks,
You
Morgan.
you you mentioned in there about this being your job now. And so there's a bit more pressure to play at the highest level, right? So with it being your job, what does kind of your day-to-day mental and physical prep look like, and how does that kind of change whether you're in season or whether you're in the off season?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll touch base in season first. So obviously, yeah, it's our job and we have to perform well. So however that is, obviously you want to be physically and mentally good. So you have to get ready every day, whatever that means to you. For different players, it can mean, variety of things. But we'll wake up and we'll probably work out twice a week, lift, right? So we'll work out in the morning and then we'll do some video and then we'll practice for about an hour, 2 hours. So, and then actually after that, after 3 p.m. or so, we have nothing. So we can do whatever we want. And for me, I like staying busy because when I was home, I was busy and I was working another job. So I'll go to yoga, I'll go to a cafe, I'll just do things to take my mind off things, right? And some players like to lounge and chill, and they'll do other things as well. But I think the in season portion, and it's important, I think you'll agree, is working out in season, right? And I
Right.
think a lot of players don't do this, but we have a trainer, Ben Prentice. He's great with our team, and we go in the gym twice a week to train with him, sometimes three, depending on our schedule. But I think obviously the mental aspect of it, I how to get mentally prepared. I read a lot of books. So Mind Gym's one of my favorite. Just like the self talk helps a lot, and I'll touch on that I'm sure afterwards. But I think mentally, that's a huge thing in the mental aspect, and then physically recovering as best as you can, right? And every I honestly every minute I can, I'm probably recovering just because like I think obviously your body takes a toll on hits. The amount you practice, which is great. I love practicing, but my hips and growing obviously get sore. So like making sure I have a full warm up before practice, going to the rink early enough to do that, right? So
Mhm.
taking that time out of your day. So warming up, getting on the bike, stretching, activating, and then obviously having a good meal afterwards or a shake, and then cooling down as well. So that's super important for me. Some players don't, but for me, I know that my body needs it. So whatever your body needs, I think you have to give it, obviously. So warm up and cool down is a huge thing. And then off season, obviously, just lifting, knowing your goals, going back to the drawing board, knowing your strengths and weaknesses to be like, okay, what can I get better for the next season, right? And obviously, this is our first season, but I knew my strengths were, speed. I like to be a playmaker, so like, I don't know, I want to work on my shot instead of passing all the time, right? So on the ice, I my shot was a huge thing, and then off the ice, I would say working on my strength and speed. And we worked on speed. You gave me a speed program because I just wanted to separate myself and use my speed to my advantage, right? So I think off season, yeah, 4 to 5 times a week, as much as you can lift and put in your schedule. But in season, I think, and I think you'll touch on this too, definitely lifting in season because I think that can separate you from other players as well.
Right. Yeah. I want to thank you for saying that. I didn't pay her to say that, by the
No,
way.
you didn't.
You absolutely need to be lifting in season. I think the whole 8 months of in season, my Instagram is just trying to convince people to lift in season. And I think like the stigma that's around it is like I play hockey. I'm a hockey player. I don't need to train, whatever the case may be. Or people are like, it's going to take away from my energy reserves to play hockey. When my whole thing is trying to get you to understand that it's helping you stay on the ice. It's helping you be healthy. It's
Yeah.
helping you recover. And not only that, it's helping you spend all this time in the off season. Every hockey player I've ever known trains in the off season because they see the importance. I got to build for next season. And then you just take like 6 or 8 months off
Hmm.
and you just like so you worked out for 4 months and then you stopped working out. And now you come back in May to work out again and you're just like you're either in the same spot as you were last May or you're in a worse spot because you just took the last 8 months off. So like
Yeah.
you need to be training and it doesn't have to be intense. It doesn't have to be the same as it was in the off season, but you need to be doing something to prepare in season. And you touched on recovery. Recovery is a huge piece for me. Obviously, you've been on some of our programs. You see what we do for recovery. What does like? Do you have any? I know you mentioned like getting some food and getting like the good nutrients in after post game, making sure you're cooling down, that sort of thing. Is there anything that helps you feel prepared from a recovery standpoint? Is it just like good sleep, or do you have any like modalities that you kind of are drawn to that you think helps prepare you to play the game?
Yeah, I think a few things. Definitely sleep and good nutrition is up there, obviously. And then I actually brought my ice bath to New York. I had an ice bath
Nice.
here in the summer, so I have it in my backyard because it's cold enough now. So I actually take 2 to 3 minute ice baths. It gets pretty cold, which is awesome. And I'll do that, maybe twice a week or on an off day. And we also have access to sauna and steam room, which is really cool. So I'll do stuff like sauna, ice bath, like active recoveries on off days. And that's about it. And I think my roommate has the Normatec pants,
Nice.
the compression ones to get the legs going. So yeah, I think obviously taking advantage of your resources, which is huge, and just resting and listening to your body. Because I think even obviously in college and I think before that, I would just work out, work out, work out.
Yeah.
And even when I was like tired, not listening to my body, I think there's a time and place, but having an off day is definitely crucial, I think.
For sure, yeah, and making your off day an off day, and not trying to
Yeah.
like plug it full of like more stuff. I think you mentioned something really good in there, that like making use of your resources, right? I think there's way too much information around recovery these days, and making use of your resources. Sure, if you have a sauna, if you have an ice bath, if you have Normatec boots, great, like use them. If they make you feel better, use them. I think
Yeah.
that's important. But I don't think every 15-year-old that's listening to this right now needs to run out and buy a set of Normatec boots, right? I
No, yeah.
think what you just mentioned there, of just making sure you're getting good post-game nutrition, you're hydrating properly, and you're sleeping properly, will just take your recovery to a new level. You're not going to need any of the modalities if you're touching on those things, right? So I think
Sure.
that's really really important to bring up, that make use of your resources if you have them. If you don't, you can still recover just
Yeah.
as hard as the pros do, right?
Yeah,
So
because I didn't have those resources, right? So like I would like I would stretch, I would try to like control what you can control, kind of, right? So whatever you have
right.
access to, I guess I should have said. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I love that answer. I just wanted to elaborate. I love that, control what you can
for sure.
control. I want to jump back to the off season a little bit. So I mentioned like we have pro groups and stuff that will train with us in the summer, and I think right now hockey parents maybe it's starting to get a little bit better, at least with the athletes that I train, because I talk to their parents often.
Yeah.
But hockey parents are getting a little crazy with how much they want their kids skating, right?
Hmm.
Hockey's quite literally turned into a year-round sport, which is insane to me, that 13, 14-year-olds are skating literally 12 months of the year. That
24/7.
is, yeah, it's nuts to me. And that's, I guess you could say 8 months of the year is me spent trying to convince people to train in season, and the other 4 months are like, you don't need to skate all the time. So it's just like me trying to convince people of these things. But I think like youth athletes and their parents especially are really surprised when I tell them that like pro athletes take 6 weeks off after the season, 4 6 weeks off to like not skate.
Hmm.
They don't touch their skates, right? They lift, they get their body ready, and they get their body kind of unwound from the season, but they're not skating. So your 15-year-old doesn't need to be skating. So what I'm interested to hear in the off season for you, what do you think? First of all, how much time do you recommend taking off postseason? And then what is your optimal balance of like in the summer of making sure you're getting on ice skill development while still getting your work done in the gym? What's that balance look like for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think my answer differs a little bit because we actually started, as you know, January 1st. So we kind of had a little bit of longer off season. But after we were done last year in March, I think I took a bit. I remember telling you this. I took probably a month and a half off just because I think
Yeah.
that's what I needed. Just and I would do some, active recovery, some like workouts here and there, but fun workouts just to get my mind off things. And I think that's a huge thing because you kind of want to miss hockey. You don't want to be consumed in it, right? And I think that differs for everyone. But for me, I felt like obviously at the end of the season, all you did was practice. It took a toll on your body. Everything was about hockey, right? So I think in the off season, it's definitely important to giving your body a break and staying off the ice. But I think once it hit June or July, I started ramping up my workouts, and that was 3 to 4 times a week. However, how many lifts you can work in your schedule, which is important. And then I think I was on the ice. I started out twice a week in June, and then July 3 times, and then once it got to August, I was on 4 times. So I think it's important, definitely in a timely manner, to obviously increase it once the season is upcoming and whatnot. But I don't think anyone should be overdoing it, especially the younger athletes, just because you
Mm.
can get burnt out, and that's a thing, right? Like you
Right.
can answer that as well. You don't want to get burnt out. You don't want nagging injuries. You don't want to you want to be well rested, right? So I think that's truly important, in order to get the best season that you can and that you're ready to go.
For sure. No, I love that answer. It's like it's yeah, like you say, I like you the little nugget that you said in there is like it's important to miss hockey. Like
Yeah.
if you're constantly playing hockey, then it becomes a job, and it becomes kind of a grind, and you're like, the season comes around and you're like, oh fuck, like hockey again. Like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so like I think that's a really, really important nugget to take away there. Like take some time off, miss the game. Like absence makes the heart grow fonder sort of
For
thing,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
I want to jump back and touch on kind of the mental side of things again, and just like we'll reflect back on your youth career, your journey to professional sports, and then kind of how that changed once you, if it did at all, once you got to professional sports. So reflecting on your journey, like what are some challenges? You've already touched on some challenges of being like a female athlete, having to play with boys, change in different locker rooms, those sorts of things. What are some challenges that you've faced throughout your even just athletic career, and how have you overcome them? And then I guess a follow-up question to that would be like, now that you're being paid to play, you're playing professional hockey, what does like how do you handle setbacks and slumps now that you're expected to perform at a certain level? People are paying you to play this sport, and maybe you go out there and you're on a slump for 4 or 5 games. How are you handling kind of those setbacks mentally?
Yeah, for sure. I think being on the smaller side, I was told I was like too small to play hockey at a young age, and that kind of just fueled me more. Obviously, it bothered me at first, but I didn't care because I loved the game, so I kept going with that. But I think it's that ability to bounce back as soon as you can, and that's hard for some athletes. It was hard for me growing up, I would say, until college. I wrapped my head around being mentally tough, even to play against, and all obviously to have mental toughness, and that came from reading books, and then also I had a guy at St. Lawrence, a coach that actually would help us meditate. So he would run through meditation sessions. I would talk to him about even having hockey anxiety a little bit, right? And I didn't know I even had that, but just like being so, I guess, uptight about stats and points and doing well and being results driven, right? And I think when you least expect that and you just go and play, that stuff just comes. Like, and it doesn't matter, right? Like, obviously, you just want to win for your team. But I think when you least expect it and you have fun, it just flows the game. So being present is a huge thing. But yeah, I definitely struggled mentally growing up just because, like, I didn't use my resources. I didn't really talk to anyone. And I think that's a huge thing. Having a good support system to like talk to someone and say, hey, this is bothering me, or like, how can I overcome this obstacle? I think for me, it was just I would get in my head about, not scoring or not doing well. But I think when I started meditating and like reaching out to some of my great support system, friends and coaches, it helped me realize to stay in the moment. And, I prepped for this. So just go out there and have fun. And then, I had my best year, my senior year, because like I didn't put a lot of pressure on myself. I just was like, you know what, you know how to play the game, go out there and have fun. And I ended up getting MVP, earning MVP for my teammates. They voted for me, which was awesome. It was a great year for me going into the professional league. And I think that was when I started to work on my mindset, which is huge. And I think a lot of younger athletes don't really use their resources for, or maybe they don't know that there's a lot of mental toughness, like any resources in that manner. And I think that's truly important because the game is a lot mental, right? A lot of mentality stuff like that. It's a little bit of physicality, but it's also the mental aspect. So being ready and like just knowing that you're prepared for the game is huge. And I think I carried that on into my professional hockey career, and obviously the pressure now with contracts and whatnot. But like I said, I just try to be present, be there for my team, and play the game I can play. And that's all I can ask for myself, and just enjoy the moment.
For sure. No, I think there's so many good takeaways there, and I think it really comes through like your mindset. Like I think the biggest nugget that anyone can take away from just this whole conversation is mindset. And you said it at the start, and you kind of touched on it there. Is like control the controllables, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's just like such an easy way to put your mind at ease and like make sure that you're in the moment. And I think it really speaks your mindset and your ability to control your mindset and be in the present moment really speaks to like why you've been so successful with this game. And like I always say the line that I say to all our athletes is confidence or competence breeds confidence. So like just getting out there, putting in the reps, being in the right spot, like the sometimes the puck just doesn't bounce your way, right?
Yeah.
But if you're putting in the reps, you know that you can score, you know that you can be the player that you know you can be, then that confidence never wavers because you know the puck's going to take another bounce next time, and you're going to
For
score those
sure.
goals, right? And also, I think I had this conversation actually like very recently with one of our athletes about confidence. How she was a female athlete as well, and she was talking about kind of how she has this confidence to make plays in practice, but in the game she doesn't have this confidence to like actually do it. And what I explained to her was the spotlight effect, right? And it's like
Hmm.
players think when you're on the ice, like everyone in the stands, all the coaches, all your teammates, everyone's like watching you, and it's
Yeah.
that's completely upstairs. It's in your head. Nobody's paying attention to you because all no, I shouldn't say nobody, but all the parents in the stands are like watching their own kid, right? And the coach is watching the game, right? And so just getting out of your own head, being competent to bring you that confidence. And I think coaches coaches notice intangibles anyways, right? So even if like you're being paid to play, and if you were signed to be a goal scorer, right? Like I think people who know the game of hockey, coaches who know the game of hockey, aren't being like, oh, Kayla's not scoring, like we need to like bench her or whatever. If you're doing the right things, you're putting yourself in the right places on the ice, you're making like high hockey IQ plays. Coaches notice that stuff anyways, right? And they
Yeah.
know just as well as you do that like pucks are going to take the bounce, and if you're in the right spot at the right time, you're going to score those goals. Things are going to come around. So I think that's a
For
really
sure.
good point for young athletes to just hang on to. There is like mindset and just controlling the controllables, making sure you're doing the right things, putting yourself in the right situations, and things are going to take a turn for you no matter how big the slump
Yeah.
is, right?
And just to add on to that, I think that's really important, that you said that, just because like I think it's okay to go in waves a little bit, but it's how fast you can kind of reset, right? So I'm really working on at the pro level how fast I can, recover from, um just if I'm talking negative to myself, like how fast I can turn that around to be positive self talk, right? Or
Right.
so for some people in a game, they have like an elastic band and they can just, go like this, and they're good, right? Like just kind of
Mhm.
forgetting what just happened and going from there. So I think whatever works for you. But yeah, it's definitely how fast you can recover from, whatever you're feeling from that emotion.
That's a great point. That's a great add-on. I think just like yeah, like you said, like the positive self-talk, like your inner critic, like your inner voice
Yeah.
shouldn't be your biggest critic, right? Like you shouldn't be criticizing everything you do. And even I took this from Jeff Lavecchio, who's a guy in the performance space that I really respect. We're kind of like I would say Instagram buddies. We talk on Instagram quite a bit, and I like a lot of his stuff. We share ideas and things like that back and forth. But I stole this concept from him. He's really big on his brand is like give more, be more, and just
Yeah.
positive attitudes, right? And just like being like your own pump up man, right? Like you should be your biggest hype man. And
For
he
sure.
said in the gym he doesn't allow his athletes to like talk negatively about themselves. Like if they mess something up, and or like even you get a group of hockey guys in the gym and we all like to mess around. You still want to keep the gym atmosphere light, but not letting like players be like, ah, you idiot, like you messed that up, right? Or not allowing
Hmm.
the player themselves to be like, oh man, I'm such an idiot, like I messed that up. Like just not allowing that, addressing it when you see it, making them address it, making them put a label on it, and just like reverse that. Like you're not an idiot, you messed up this time. Now reverse that, like spin that into something positive,
Yeah.
and just like I think that's part of our role as strength coaches is not just develop you physically, but like to help build that like strong mindset of just like you're not an idiot. You messed up this one time, and I think that carries over to the ice, and that's one huge thing I've taken from him that I really enjoyed, and you seem to echo that sentiment there. So that's awesome to hear.
Awesome. I love that.
Um, okay, I want to be very conscious of your time here.
No,
One
you're
last
good.
one last question that I ask all our guests is there's this old adage that says you're the average of the five people you hang around with the most, which I think still reigns pretty true. I think in the new world of kind of internet, digital age, whatever you want to call it, you're the average of the five people that you not only hang around with, but that you consume the most content of, like the most Instagram content you consume, the books you read, those sorts of things. So I'm interested to hear who are those five people, and if you can't come up with five people off the top of your head, that's okay. Who you consume the most from, you learn the most from, are mentors to you, who have influenced your journey, and that sort of thing.
Five people's nothing. I have like 10, I would say.
Well, give me them all. Give them all.
No, yeah. I would honestly say, like, I love that statement and I love that quote. I would honestly say it's definitely my family. So, like, my dad, my mom, my sister, and then obviously my friend group. Like, I have, 6 to 8, like, 6 to 8 of my friends that are just a huge support system for me. And, like, looking at our friend group, our girl group, like, they're all successful and they, like, want to be better. They all have great jobs and they're so supportive. They came to my Toronto game and they literally had signs, like each of them had a letter of like my last name, like Vespa, and I had no clue, and like they were just like up and just holding it. So I think having people that make you better and challenge you is a huge thing. And I want them to be their best selves as well. But my mom and my dad and my sister all also like really support me, and like, my mom and my dad drove me to all these hockey games and like put so much time and all that. So I really think it's the people that you surround yourself, and obviously, trainers I've had in the past, and St. Lawrence University coaches and teammates. I'm still teammates with them. So obviously there's way more than 5 people, but social media as well. Like, I think following obviously positive accounts and not getting, wound up on other things that people are posting and whatnot. I kind of use Instagram just to inspire and kind of show like hockey and connect with old friends and connect with teammates and all that. And I also follow obviously your account, which is awesome, and other positive accounts that can help me to be a better hockey player and also a better person as well. Like, I love following stuff on nutrition, workouts, anything, any podcast like your podcast. So I really think Instagram is a great way to connect if you're using it right. And I try to stay off of it. I try not to scroll so much, but it's so hard because there's like all these videos and whatnot that like you kind of get tied in. But trying to stay off my phone and like enjoy, making memories with the people that matter the most, which is like my friends, my family, people that have helped me, trainers, teammates, coaches. So yeah, I think that's definitely a bigger answer, but
No,
I
that's
don't know.
that's completely okay. I love
Yeah.
that. I think I'm happy that you mentioned your parents. I think parents are the unsung heroes of any good hockey player's kind of career. They, drive getting you up for 6 a.m. practices
Oh
and
yeah.
driving you everywhere and driving you all over the country to play in tournaments and stuff. But no, Kayla, I really want to thank you. This has been a fantastic conversation. To anyone who knows you, has worked with you, I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that you're in the position that you're in. And clearly,
Thank
having
you.
talked to you for the last hour, just like your approach to everything, your commitment to excellence and your mindset towards everything is definitely one of the main reasons that you find yourself in the position that you're in. So I really want to thank you for your time jumping on here, sharing so much good information that you had for the younger players. To anyone that wants to find out more about you, kind of what you're doing, anyone that wants to find out about PWHL New York, and how they can watch the games and tune in and support you guys, where can we send them?
I guess you can go to my Instagram or go to our Instagram. So my Instagram, Kayla Vespa, just my name and last name, but also PWHL New York. If you want to come watch our games, go get tickets. When we come to Toronto here or wherever, anyone that's listening, any team, just to support because we love the support. The PWHL is growing, and I hope to see you guys there as well. So thanks for having me. This was awesome, and you did a great job. Can't wait to hear more about your podcast.
No, I appreciate it. Like I said, thank you so much for jumping on. And yeah, like she said, to anyone who hasn't tuned in yet, definitely check it out.
Yeah.
It's If you're not a believer, you will be after you watch a game. And if you're in what is it, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal,
Montreal, Minnesota,
Boston,
Boston, New York.
and New York, yeah. So if you're in any of those places, definitely go out, help the gals out. We're trying to grow the game here and help
Absolutely.
them keep setting those record attendances. So thank you so much, Kayla. I really appreciate you jumping on, and have a great night.
Thanks, Morgan. You as well. Take care.
All right. All right, just stop the recording here.
How was that?